Hello, beautiful soul. I'm so glad you're here to join me today. Today is going to be super fun. And if you will indulge me a little bit, we'll do a little bit of geeky stuff where we will need a gyroscope, a compass, and a vague understanding of what a hologram is. And don't worry, I'll tell you what I've gleaned from my research. Uh, we're going to go on a cosmic adventure and talk about the cellular symphony and what that is and how that led me to the coaching practice that I have today. Also, we'll be talking about the magic of holographic unity. And we will also, like I said, be incorporating gyroscopes and compass also into what coaching is and how you can live a high powered life. You just need all that: your compass, your gyroscope, your hologram understanding, and your curiosity. And we will dive in today. But before before we dive too deep, don't worry, I haven't turned into a physicist. I'm just a lowly pathologist. And disclaimer that these are my understandings of physics and holograms, if you will. Indulge me here. This is really about the heartbeat behind what my coaching is, one high power field, and just really the essence of what that is. So that's what we'll be talking about today. So we will be unraveling the secrets of how to live a high power field. And we will be unraveling the secrets of how to live a high power field, as well as how to design your life so that it sings from your heart who you are, living a heart-centered life with thought and purpose. In case we haven't met yet, my name is Libby Schanzmeyer. I am your life design coach. If you are ready to reignite your power and live with joy and purposeful presence, it's time for you to get on board with this movement. I help busy women, especially busy mothers, define themselves and define the life they want to live, and then go into it and live it. Over the course of my career and motherhood as a physician, full-time working with 3 kids, I came to realize that I left myself out of the equation. And that's something, when we design our lives, that we fully put ourselves back into our life. We fill our life with our presence. We fill our family. We pour into our kids. But when you're, tired and burned out and trying to get by, I know how difficult that can be. So bear with me. I'm not trying to tell you that, oh, you just need to do this magic thing. There's not a magic thing. There's seasons in our life, right? And there's things that can help, though, if you're in a difficult season. And there's ways that we can being in life, which is going from our default living to our designed living. Our default living has less choice. It's just where people, live the way we quote should and what culture tells us and what our family tells us, but it's not this deep introspective guidance. And in designing your life, that's where you can get deeper introspective guidance, like really know how to move in your life from your deepest knowing. I used to think if I could, have my kids happy and in activities and at a good school and have their meals done and be a good wife and be a good daughter. I thought if I could fill all those roles and be a good pathologist, I thought I could fill all those roles, then I would be happy. And it didn't turn out that it was as easy as do these good roles well and, make 100 on your test or 95 or 70, whatever it happened to be that day. It wasn't that easy. I found after years of being conditioned in our culture by getting, quote, good grades and doing the right thing and, you know, crafting a life that looked good on paper. As a kid, I was, kind of taught how to do that and, be involved in extracurricular activities, do these things and be, well-rounded and look good on paper. Like that was the goal. And so I kind of was like, well, I guess that's what we're supposed to do. And so we were, tried to look good on paper, but that at a certain point became not as fulfilling and purposeful. And it felt kind of empty. And there was a lot of guilt about it too, because I had achieved this place in my career where I thought everything would be great in my career and my family and these different things. And I was looked around and I was like, why isn't all of these things that I got making me happy? And it was because I wasn't designing my life from my heart, from my intuition and from my highest knowing. I was I was living my life in more of a reaction and a response and conditioning that I learned from the outside. And of course, we have things that we know from the outside, but what is directing us primarily, right? That's where the life design is. Okay. So the this cost of living this unexamined life of the default life can be excruciating. It can be so painful because there's this, like I said, there's this level of guilt and confusion because it's like, why am I not happy? And our brain wants to understand it, so our brain keeps running and running and running, trying to figure it out, and it just isn't making sense. But we have a better way, and that is what brings us to our journey today of using our compass, our gyroscope, and our hologram, and putting those things together and thinking how that is really designing our life. And so it's so fun to me. This is like kind of geeky stuff that I like to think about. So, first of all, this cellular symphony. And I've mentioned this before about one day sitting at my microscope, realizing that each cell is its own universe. That it has this whole little ecosystem within the cell. And I was sitting there at the microscope looking at the cells, and I was like, oh my gosh, our cells are just like us. Think how important each cell is. If a cell's DNA gets messed up or the cell goes bad, it can create cancer. It can create a whole tumor that can, kill a person. It's so powerful. And at the same time, the cells are so uniquely, miraculously individual. They're completely interrelated and interconnected. And one of the things when we're in pathology looking at cells, one of the things that we look at is, the certain number of cells, we'll look at mitotic figures in a single high power field. And that just means when you're looking at the microscope, one field without moving the slide around, just one area at a specific magnification. But that's one high power field. And when I was looking at those cells, I was like, that's like each of us. We are each our own high power field. Each cell is a high power field that has power and energy within it. And what it is doing matters to the whole organism. And the cell has so much energy and potential. And about the same time, I was listening to this book by Bruce Lipton. I think it was The Biology of Belief. And it was talking about how our cells, our cell wall is so important. It's either drawing something closer or pushing it away, which fits with nonviolent communication, which is this kind of communication that I practice. And I'm saying it because it's similar in that every interaction with other people is either a please or a thank you. So we're like drawing something away or thank you or no thank you, right? It's either pulling toward or pushing away anything. And that's what our cell membranes do. And that's what we do. as an individual and as a collective. So if we are like an individual cell, I began to realize that as mothers, we set the tone in a lot of ways for our home, and we become this emotional beacon for our home. Like we're this organism, we're the cell inside of the home with our kids. And how are we going to interact with the other cells, the other people in our home? Like, are we going to draw them to us? Are we going to be positive and enjoy our life? Or are we going to be stressed and living in this chaos, which I definitely was at a certain point, because I felt like there was just too much to do all the time. And there was not really the support I needed in my life to make it a sustainable life. And that felt really heavy. And then on top of that, being a type of person that has always been able to handle my life, it was a very painful experience, because it's not only that you have a lot to do and it's stressful, but it's also that you feel like you're doing a bad job, which, us high achievers, when you feel like you're doing a bad job, that's pretty painful. And that's part of our life design of letting go of that old story. But that's part of this cellular, I guess, idea that I had, that we're just like cells, and in microscopy, being a pathologist, you go in and out to your different powers, right? So you can go a really high powered magnification and see really close details, or low powered magnification and see more like a bird's eye view. And so with that, I realized that each of us are like one cell, but at a bird's eye view, each cell is so interconnected. You can't take it out and it wouldn't function the same, because all the cells are interconnected. That's just like we are. We're interconnected with each other. We're interconnected with the planet. We breathe the air and that gets in our cells. And it's this whole dynamic universe within each person, just as it is in each cell. And, being this whole dynamic universe as an individual is like, wow, that's kind of a big responsibility. Being the emotional beacon of your home is a big responsibility. So that kind of can feel heavy. And I would encourage us, including myself, not to be burdened by another quote responsibility, but to see it as the blessing that it is, to get to be on the planet and have these experiences is a great thing we get to experience in our life, especially if we can design our life so that it's enjoyable and sustainable, versus living in a life that feels more chaotic. Because, like, look at cells that are not in a supportive environment, or not in a nutrient rich environment. They don't do well. And so just physiologically, we know we need basic things, right? Like cells. But beyond that, we can design our life to support our physiology, to support our sleep, to support our fulfilling dreams and purpose on the planet. And I firmly believe that each person's mission and values, it really is like cells. Like a whole group of different people is like cells forming, one tissue or one organism, because they're interconnected and unique and individual, but they have so much power individually and together. And imagine if all of us designed our life to live our highest purpose, our highest mission, our deepest vision that is so important to us. I believe we all have these in us. And if you don't say, oh, I have this big purpose, that's okay. I think the smallest thing can be our purpose. It doesn't matter like if it's a big, gigantic thing or not. It's what is in your heart to live out. And if all of us live that, that would be like this vibrant cells in a tissue that are thriving, and that would change the world for the better. Much less our homes and our own life, right? Like, think how good it feels to be able to, at the end of the day, look back at your day and be like, wow, I, did something today that I didn't think maybe I would do at the beginning of the day. And that was fun. I'm proud of myself. Imagine like living a life like that. That would be so brilliant and designed, right? And we can absolutely do it. So I got fascinated, this idea of thinking of cells or like tissues or like people. I started learning about holograms because I was like, ooh, this is cool. Like a cell is sort of like a person, and it's like everything just repeats itself. The patterns just keep repeating. And so a hologram is like you can see the picture of what we're looking at images, right? So it's like a photograph, but different. It is a copy of an image, but it's based more on light. And again, I'm not a physicist. They're both based on light. But the hologram has the whole image in it, but from different perspectives. And I feel like each of us is like that. Like we have the whole picture, but I have this perspective of the picture of the universe, of my life, of anything we're doing. And the other person has the whole picture, but it's from their perspective, right? And so we can see the universe from each of us, but we all have our uniquely, miraculously individual perspectives, which is great. If we all, it's what makes the world go around, that we all have our own perspective and experience. And again, this goes back to life design, and that all our unique perspectives and experiences can help us move into a life that is exquisitely intentional versus, well, I'm just doing this because that's what I did yesterday and I'm going to keep doing it again today. So that's how the holographic unity came into the picture, that each of us is a representation of the whole, but it's so uniquely different that it has a little bit of a different perspective. And then finally, navigating life. This is where I think about the compass and the gyroscope. And I've heard coaches talk about, well, this is like a compass to your life. Let's point north and go that direction. But beyond that, we need a gyroscope. And I think that life design, take out I think. Beyond that, we need a gyroscope for our life. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but you have a gyroscope in your hand probably right now if you're not watching on a desktop or laptop. Actually, laptops might, I don't know. But if you're watching this on a phone or listening to this on a phone, you have a gyroscope. And the gyroscope keeps us from going topsy-turvy. It keeps things straight and level. And I love this thinking because in our life design, when you know who you are and you know who your mission, you know what your mission is, and you know your values and your purpose and your goals, the goals kind of come last, right? Like we build this really strong foundation. And that really keeps us on keel. It keeps from flipping upside down, going the wrong way. A compass is a direction. And I do think we're all directional beings. Like we want to go in the right direction. And that's critically important. But it's also important to be stabilized and not flip upside down. Of course, sometimes we can. But the stability of a gyroscope plus a compass, I've that really represents what life design is. And being one high power field, if you are a field that knows its direction and knows its stability, that's where we can create change, where we can create amazing homes that we don't have to escape from by drinking wine at night and drinking a bunch of coffee in the morning to wake up from the night before, and live in a sustainable way that isn't coerced by situations that we get into that we think we have to keep doing, but it's not true in our own hearts. So, living our lives from a design standpoint of view, of knowing our power, of being, uniquely, miraculously individual, plus miraculously interconnected. This can give us this power in all of these areas. And there's 5 areas I'd like to just briefly mention here. There are 4 ways that using life design, we can step into our power. And here are the 4 ways. Number 1, intentional decision making. Number 2, personalized priorities. Number 3 is firm boundaries plus some flexibility. And the fourth is through life satisfaction and fulfillment. This is the way we step into our power, and we are each one high power field. You're a high power field. I'm a high power field. Together, we're a high power field. So to go back through those 4, the intentional decision making. A lot of times in life, I've done a different podcast about making decisions, but we make decisions from our default living, from just our past history, thinking, well, this might be the next step. This looks good. This sounds like it should be a good thing. But life design and designing our life, we really check in deeply with what are your values and what can you do to make sure that this decision is intentional, that it's intentional in a way that serves you long term. Again, sustainability. I'm coming back to sustainability because we can make decisions that are, beneficial to us significantly, but if they aren't sustainable and feasible for the long term, that takes away our power, that takes away our energy, and it becomes, a drag. And then personalized priorities. This is knowing your own individual values. We can all say, oh, our integrity is a high value and freedom is a high value, but it's what are they for you individually? Not for me, not for somebody else. What are your values? Like, can you name your top 5 values? And if you can't, I highly encourage you to at least come up with some kind of a rough draft of what your top 5 values are. That's something I help my clients with, is naming these values, because it can make things so much easier moving through life. And then it becomes your own. This is your life. This isn't anyone else's. It's yours. And this is a way to make it yours. It's your thing. It's your creation on the planet. It's your masterpiece. So live into that. So firm boundaries and flexibility. Sometimes we can feel stuck in life. And I think a lot of that comes from being flexible in the wrong area and not having firm enough boundaries in another area. So sometimes we have to flip those and be less flexible in an area and stronger boundaries. Sometimes the other is true. Sometimes we need to just chill and relax this boundary appropriately, of course, and be a little bit more flexible in an area. And again, that goes back to your personal priorities, your own values, and how you want to create your beautiful life on the planet. So, like an example of that with the boundaries might be somebody who feels trapped by living in this default life of, this is what I was conditioned to do. This is what everybody told me would work. And here I am, and I'm not happy. And so a boundary around that might be, I am not going to live in a situation that is not fulfilling on a really deep level. And it doesn't have to be superficial. I'm talking about things that are like true in your heart kind of things. Um, and the flexibility might be, well, I'm going to have to change some things in my life. What can I change today? It might be some tiny little thing. It might be making a phone call. It might be going to the gym. Who knows? Just a tiny little thing of changing and being flexible to accommodate a larger boundary. And then we also talked about having boundaries within ourselves of the way we're thinking, the way we are consuming any kind of media, food, anything. Having some boundaries with ourselves of, I'm not going to indulge in negative thinking about this because I've been thinking about it for a few hours now, and that's not moving me in the direction I want to go. It's really not. It's not that I need to analyze it. If you need to think about things, that's fine. I'm not saying not to think through things. I'm saying sometimes if things get to a point where it's not serving you, we can have boundaries with our own thoughts and say, I'm going to change my thinking right now and think about something else. Give our mind, if your mind's like mine, is kind of busy and it needs things to think about. So, I'll say affirmation or a prayer, even, a meditation, or go for a walk, just distract myself literally like a child and just enforce the boundary with myself. But then doing that is like the self-discipline where you can step into your power. There's that saying, easy choices, hard life, hard choices, easy life. And that's kind of what that is, of stepping into your power. Sometimes it might take some hard choices, but you get to step into your power doing that. And that's such a cool thing to get to experience in your life. It's so fun. And finally, the other stepping into your power area is about life satisfaction and fulfillment. When this is kind of like a vicious circle. When we're feeling satisfied with our life and fulfilled, we have so much power. Like, I think it really does a disservice to our confidence when we're living a life that is unfulfilling, because it's just like, well, I kind of want to do this other thing, but I can't really see a way to do it. And then that really kind of eats away at our confidence, right? Instead of living in the embodiment of this vision that we want for our lives, if we're feel stuck or think it's not for us or think that's somebody else, we're not in our power. And so when we are living a life of satisfaction and fulfillment, we are in our full high power field. And so a design life is wonderful in doing that. We design everything around what is satisfying, fulfilling in your life. So if you're interested in designing your life or life design or living into your power, come join us over in the free Facebook group. It's called Living True by Design, and I would love to meet you in there. If you have any questions or comments, if you have some physics tips about holograms, I would love to hear it because I'm so curious about it. If you want to hear more about cells, let me know. I can talk about that too because it's so fun. I think it's the physiology and the just cellular mechanism of our bodies is absolutely incredible. It's so cool. And we can learn so much from it. Like this, it has really enriched my life, like learning about ourselves and seeing the morphology and seeing, when I look in the microscope, I'm like, I'm so lucky I get to look into this whole other universe of cells that a lot of people can't see. You look at your skin and we think this is what the skin looks like, but it's not. And I think that that's part of being the high power field we see the skin and think that's all there is to it, but there's not. There's like universes below it of like each cell has so much happening within it, just like us people, you know? And if you're on your phone right now, come on over to Instagram, give me a follow over there. I'd like to see you there too, and engage there. Send me a DM. Especially if you have any questions, I would love to hear any kind of questions about coaching or life design. Maybe not holograms, because I loosely understand those, but I do get the main concept. And join us next week for our next show, where we'll be talking about unleashing your level 10 life and what the first few steps of life design look like. And please go share the show with your friends who are other high achieving, busy moms. Let them know what's coming up next week and invite them to tune in with you to learn how to design and live a level 10 life. Until then, remember, you are one high power field. It's time for you to show up, focus, and shine. Are you feeling overwhelmed by the countless decisions life is throwing your way? Are you tired of the busy home with kids, laundry to do, meals to prepare, and a busy, high-achieving career? Do you want a deeper connection with your partner? If so, the 1-hour Living True by Design coaching session is just for you. It is your guiding light. During this 1-hour coaching call, you'll get a personalized, actionable plan. There will be concrete steps for you to take to step back into your power to be authentic and own your most authentic life and be true to you. Together, let's embark on a journey to design the life you've always envisioned.